Perfect for You, Part 2. I was caught in between a rock and a hard place after our first kiss, because it made me realize how much I liked him. However, that couldn't make up for what it would mean for us if we were to be in a relationship. The last thing I would want to feel is if I wasn't adequate without intimacy and resort to ending things with him. I suddenly got a text from him while I was laying on my bed, staring at the ceiling hours later. So, that was pleasant and surprising. Pleasant surprise then. Anyways, I wanted to ask you if you want to go to this open mic session on Friday night. Sure, haven't been to one of those in ages. I threw my phone and groaned. I was so indecisive. One minute I was telling myself that I couldn't be with him, and the next I was agreeing to go on a date with him. It was a date, wasn't it? Or maybe I had misread the situation. Great. Now I would spend the rest of the night wondering if it was going to be a date. I didn't see him for the rest of the week, except for brief texts and phone calls. Work was pretty hectic, so I was barely getting any free time. So that meant we only saw each other on Friday night. The open mic session was at this hall, which I'd never been to before. He had sent me the location days prior, but I ended up getting late because I was bad at any sort of navigation, and my GPS was being a traitor. I saw him immediately, since he was a bit hard to miss with his bright red hair. I whispered a greeting as I came to sit next to him. We engaged in a quiet conversation while the participants went up on stage, but the whole time I was freaking out over what this meant for us. The night was really nice in all honesty, and nothing eventful happened between us, until the very end. He kept on looking at me awkwardly as we made our way to my car, and I didn't know what to say to him. There was no act to talk about now, and so we were faced with the awkwardness of talking to each other about other things. I got him settled into the car and started to drive. So, I've been wanting to bring our kiss up all night, he said. Yes, we should probably talk about that, I admitted. Is this just a rebound thing for you after Jordan? Gosh, no, it's not like that. I mean, you've always been there. You're very cool. It's definitely not like that, I protested. Good, because I'd like to take you out on a real date. Wait, so this wasn't... Oh no, I just thought you'd like to come. You're one of the few friends I have, and everyone else was busy, he intercepted. Oh, I see. My voice lowered a bit. I did feel a twinge of real disappointment when he said that, because I wanted it to be a date, if I was being honest with myself. Oh, I didn't mean... Gosh, nothing comes out right when I say it. I had no idea if the kiss was a mistake for you or not, so, assuming it was, a date would have been very presumptuous of me, don't you think? Oh no, I get what you meant, I chuckled. I felt really warm and gooey inside. He had made me feel like that so many times lately. The rekindled feelings that I was experiencing reminded me so much of how I felt the day I met him so many years ago. We ended up going to watch a new movie, which had just premiered a few days later. In the middle of it, he held my hand, which caught me by surprise. But I didn't let go for the rest of the movie. Even though the theater was dark, and we were pretty much not allowed to talk, we couldn't help but exchange glances when the actors said something witty. We also got a few warnings to keep quiet, but it was hard because I was bursting to discuss things with him. And I know, it was annoying for the other people, and we could have done so later, but I always wanted him to know every single thought which passed through my mind as soon as it did. We went to my place after our date to relax and spend some quality time together. Having spent so much time with him before and after the kiss, I couldn't deny there was an attraction to him. Like any other person, I was a slave to my heart, and I was having thoughts about what would happen for us in the long run. It would be quite stupid for me to pass him up twice. There were not many like him out there. He always had unwavering loyalty to me, and a deeper understanding of my emotions, which few possessed. He was the person I looked at first when I made a joke, the one I complained to after a bad day, and the one who always made me laugh. Do you think that we will ever be allowed in that theater ever again? I asked. Maybe if we ask really nicely, he laughed. Oh, I doubt it. Next time we should just order loads of junk food and play video games, I suggested. You lazy couch potato. We're young. We should be out in the world, exploring. Not cooped up in here like some old couple, he said in an exasperated manner, but I knew that he was just joking with me. So, are we a couple then? I raised an eyebrow. I mean, I think it would make sense. We make sense, he said as he squeezed my hand. I held his hand as I leaned over to kiss him. It was light, but full of so much promise that it nearly made my heart burst. When I tried to pull away, he only brought me closer and continued kissing me so sweetly. I really like you, he said. And I like you too. I gave him a peck on the nose, which caused him to smile. We dated peacefully for a couple of months, but the honeymoon phase didn't last long. Not for lack of passion, but for too much passion on my end. There were things that we could do intimately, but we were limited. To put it in simpler terms, there were intimate positions that we couldn't do because of his paralysis. The problem was that I couldn't get over the nagging feeling at the back of my head that I wanted more. My own passion built up, and it started to affect the quality of our relationship. I understood that he was doing the best he could, but I couldn't switch off how I felt. In the beginning stages of our relationship, we talked briefly about opening up our relationship so that I could satisfy my urges with other people, but I never did anything about it. But one night when we were lying in bed and cuddling, he brought it up again. "You know I love you, right?" he suddenly proclaimed. "Of course I do, my love. And I really want you to be happy. I know you've been trying to understand my situation, but remember that I know you very well. I'm your best friend, before I'm your boyfriend after all," he said. "Where are you going with this? I want you to start seeing other people. Are you breaking up with me?" "Gosh, no. I want you to feel free to hook up with anyone you want, like an open relationship," he explained. "Are you sure? Will you not feel jealous?" "As long as your heart remains mine and you're happy, I won't feel jealous," he said. I was torn because I loved him so much, but there was no way I could deny my true nature, no matter what. I didn't want to hurt him though, as I could imagine that he wasn't fully into this. "Just one thing," he continued. "Anything. If you fall out of love with me, tell me immediately," he said. "I would never fall out of love with you," I protested. "I'm not stupid, my love. I know these things happen," he smiled grimly. "If it starts making you uncomfortable, tell me immediately, okay?" I said. "Yes, I will. I feel like some hot chocolate now. Will you be a darling?" he pouted. "No need to bring out the big guns. Anything that you need, I'll get for you," I chuckled as I got out of bed. Matt and I were a team. We did everything together, including finding a third for our relationship. Having him support me in that endeavor only made me fall in love with him even more. There were actually many websites that catered to what we wanted, but it wasn't very easy for us to find the right person. But soon, we met a man named Neo, who seemed open to the idea. I met with him and there was definitely some chemistry there. Plus, he seemed like a good guy, so we started hooking up. He wasn't looking for anything serious, so he was okay with it just being a physical thing. Having Neo there to relieve some of the tension actually improved my and Matt's relationship. He still got most of my time, and we decided early on that we wouldn't discuss Neo or any other person that I was with at the time. We progressed to a point where we wanted to move in together after we'd been dating for over 2 years, but that brought its own challenges. I was having so much fun with the freedom that he gave me that it was starting to have negative effects. I would go out partying and meet guys who I would have one-night stands with and never talk to again. And during that bout of passion, I lost sight of what was important to me. I was just high on what I was getting physically, that I couldn't notice how lonely he was getting. He never once complained when I would come home in the morning after spending the night with someone else. In my head, it was working out perfectly for us. But then, it all started to blur into a monotonous experience where I met people that I had nothing in common with, and was intimate with them. I had once been insatiable, never thinking that I would get tired of it. I somehow thought that I could manage my own relationship by having sex with people who didn't mean anything to me. But then it got very boring. Then the deep regrets started to cloud my mind daily as I thought of how I hadn't spent a single night with Matt for the whole week because I was with someone else. He was always so understanding when I canceled on him, but my heart hurt every time that I messed up and stood him up. We barely spent any time together anymore as the months wore on, and I really missed him. I was starting to realize that even though I was getting the best of both worlds, it had cost me something valuable, my time with him. I still loved him very much, and he made me so happy in a way that no amount of sex could ever equate to. It was all trivial. The time that I spent with people that didn't know the depths of my heart nor make me happy. What was good about satisfying my body when my heart wasn't at peace? One day, as I was cleaning the house and he was in the dining room, working, I came across 2 pieces of paper that were folded. The writing was nearly gone, but the words were still clear. It was the fortunes we got on the very first day we met. A wave of emotion washed over me, and I started to cry. "You're about to embark on a new path, and you must leave behind what weighs you down, my obsession with sex. You will suffer greatly for love, his sacrifice for me." I had a complete meltdown then as I realized exactly what I had done. I had been so focused on getting what was important for me, which I realized was nothing in the end. In the process, he suffered in silence because he loved me. No amount of sex was more important than him. I had felt something deeper when I had sex with him than with anyone else. There was so much love and caring with him than in any stranger or acquaintance I met over the past few years. I had messed up big time, and it had taken me so long to realize that I didn't deserve him or his love. I was only starting to calm down when I saw him come toward me, with a very concerned expression on his face. "My love, what's going on? Come here," he said. I stooped down and placed my head on his lap. I felt like a baby because only broken words and sobs came out of my mouth. He merely caressed my hair until I calmed down. "I found our fortunes," I said as I handed the crumbled pieces of paper to him. His eyes clouded over with what looked like sadness as he read them. "With love comes pain, and I'm willing to bear it," he said as he handed me back the fortunes. "Why? I've been treating you badly for a while now. You've watched me come home early in the morning after spending the night with someone else, yet you still love me. Why?" "We make sacrifices for love. I'd rather suffer when I smell someone else's cologne on you than feel like a failure every time we have sex," he sighed. His words may as well have been a knife in my heart. "I don't view you as a failure. You can't blame yourself for my shortcomings. I thought that sex was equal to love, or even more important, but it's not. At least not for me," I confessed. "I prefer to make love to you. I choose you," I continued. He had gone speechless, and his eyes were glassy. No more tears. I got up and wiped the tears from his eyes. I made a silent vow right then that it would only be him from then on. When I kissed him, it felt like the first time, but even better. I couldn't help the desire for him that flooded through me, and I saw it mirrored in his eyes. No words needed to be exchanged because we knew it. We made our way to our room, where we made love for the first time in months. I had missed his body and the way that he said my name. No one gave me the joy he did. The intensity built up and led us to not lasting long. "Marry me," I said right after. "What?" He turned to look at me. "Will you marry me?" I repeated. "I heard you the first time. I'm just trying to process it," he chuckled as he kissed me gently. "And yes, I'll marry you, Gordon," he said ever so softly. That was one of the happiest moments of my life. I hugged him and held him so tightly, unable to believe that we were going to be married so soon. I didn't want to lose him no matter what. He was the one made for me, and I wanted to be by his side forever. We didn't have a big wedding. It was just a few friends and family a few weeks after I proposed. For me, it was just about who I was with and not how fancy it all was. His vows had me in tears. In fact, everything had me in tears on that day. I love you. Even when it was hard, I loved you. You read in books about perfect love, but it doesn't weigh up to imperfect love. I'll say this again, Gordon. If I had the means to, I would walk through fire for you, he said. Then it was sealed. We were married and bound for as long as we wanted, and for me, it was forever. That feeling that I needed more didn't come back even once. He was more than enough for me, and I realized that there was more to intimacy than just the physical part. Since he didn't have to take much control, things got easier for us as time went by, and we learned what the other person enjoyed. The years flew by so fast that I didn't even notice them. As we grew older, we weren't as active as we were when we were younger, but we made time for being intimate occasionally. We were soon that old bickering couple that was always fighting over stupid stuff, but we were content with what we had. I could truly say that I lived a meaningful life with him by my side at all times, despite the rigors which had been on our path. Sometimes, the person who is your best match is in front of you, but you don't realize it. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.